Let's unpack those numbers further with Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. As always, Makwe, thank you very much for joining us for the Markets Wrap discussion. Let's start with the JSE. Very impressive beginning to the week for the local bourse. The resources really carrying the JSE to end off as well as it did. But we're seeing some pressure with the local currency. What would you say were some of the biggest catalysts on the local bourse today before you break down the weakness in the rand?
You know, it's more of what is happening internationally. Yesterday, we got the news that UBS will be buying Credit Suisse. Remember, this is the most important takeover that has happened since 2008 when it comes to a globally important bank. And all it does, it managed to help what we call it immediate risk, but we know long-term uncertainty is still out there. And initially, that couldn't stem the fears that we had. But the fact that we start to expect that come Wednesday, the US Fed should not maybe increase interest rates. I think markets are getting carried away by that fact that there's a possibility that Wednesday the US might have to pause when it comes to interest rate. And we all understand the impact of this bank turmoil. Basically, individuals, businesses don't be able to get a loan. And should that happen, definitely that will have a negative impact when it comes to the economy. And yes, the rand itself, on a day where the US dollar is low, and because of the fact that we don't expect interest rates to go up in the US, and on the very same day where we see that commodity prices have firmed, the rand unfortunately lost most of the ground, and we can just pin that to what is happening out there when it comes to the national shutdown. Yes, fortunately, there were no unrest or funny things that were reported, but I think the investor sentiment has been dented to some extent, because even people have taken extended holidays. Wherever they are, they should be able to spend. But in this instance, they cannot spend because of the shutdown. And even though we know that load shedding today has been cancelled, so this is one of those days where businesses should be making good money, given that they don't have to spend extra cash on diesel because they've got the lights on.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that you bring up there, because I wanted us to get into the price of Brent crude as well. Things are relatively okay for the moment. You've mentioned electricity and what investors or those who participate in the economy should be taking advantage of at the moment. The price of Brent crude trading at around $72 a barrel. What would you say has brought the price down so impressively? And do you think we might actually benefit from it, or is the weaker rand just going to prevent us from seeing lower cost imports coming through?
The rand should come to the party. That will definitely help. As we said, Brent crude prices, they're almost at a 15-month low, and all because of these issues about the banking sector. As we said initially, should it continue, then definitely that will have a negative impact on the global economy. Then that tells you that there won't be demand out there. And also the fact that they continue to expect the oil traders that probably they think the US might increase interest rates. So that will be negative for them, because now if the dollar starts to strengthen, then it becomes expensive for holders of other currencies to be able to afford it.
Let's get into some company updates now. Transaction Capital, that was in the news with us last week. The SA taxi business really suffering because the taxi industry is not doing too great, and so there are repossessions of minibus taxis that is taking place. Today, trading update, a profit warning, really just not a great time for Transaction Capital in terms of what we're likely to see when the results are released.
Definitely. If they expect their profits for 6 months to fall by almost 46% over 12 months, they expect at least to fall by almost 24%. And we know there's also been a challenge or competition from these new entry-level SUVs. So that has been making life difficult for them. The share price since the 13th of March has been down almost 60%. Hence, it made sense for them to say, listen, we wanted to increase our shareholding in WeBuyCars from 74.9% to by another 15%. But 30% of the purchase consideration had to be settled by issuing shares from Transaction Capital. But given that the share price is so low, the guys had to suspend that and say, listen, we'll go to the existing arrangement. We have a put and call arrangement, meaning that they will settle that in 2 transactions or tranches. Like the first one should be in September 2023, then the second one September 2024.
Then finally, Merafe Resources, they were able to post a profit in their operations, Makwe, but they are really lamenting this issue of electricity, the tariff hike that comes in from the 1st of April, and the conversations that they're having to cushion themselves from the high cost of doing business. So they might be benefiting from the commodity prices that we've been seeing, but this energy issue is a real one for these mining companies.
Well, definitely, this is a big one, and we have seen their production only increased by mere 1%. Revenue was down by almost 2%. So it's not looking okay. And then also remember, ferrochrome, it depends on what is happening with the stainless steel demand. And if economies are not growing out there, if there's no good demand out of China, because we also have to look into the ferrochrome industry when it comes to China, then unfortunately it works against them. Not forgetting that the exchange rate as well has to be a negative impact for them if it's not working to their favor.
Makwe, as always, thank you very much for those insights, and enjoy your Human Rights Day tomorrow. That is Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. And that's all your business for this hour. And Lee will be back in the next hour focusing on the shutdown as we have been, but we'll be speaking to the Black Business Council and the businesses that closed not because they were in support of the shutdown, but because of the concerns that persist.
And of course, we heard from the Black Business Council before the shutdown on Friday and over the weekend. So it'll be interesting to hear their perspective on how things played out today. Thanks so much, Rofhiwa.